This is the Walk-Thru, powered by Triple F Elite Sports Training. Train like a pro. Your all-access pass to the biggest games, hottest stories, and everything high school football in East Tennessee. From the Friday night lights to the chase for championships, we bring you the stars, the headlines, and every heart-pounding moment. So strap on that chin strap and get ready. Jesse, Paige, and the 5-Star Preps team are here with the most complete high school football coverage in the state. This is the Walk-Thru.
Welcome into the Walk-Thru, Paige Dauer alongside Jesse Smithey. The same is the same. We're at Triple F, but the air, it feels different.
It does feel different. It's playoff scented.
That's what it is.
It's a playoff
yes.
scent.
Okay,
New
but
playoff.
the first round or
New season smell.
Smells nice and fresh.
Yeah.
It's going to be really exciting seeing all of the matchups we have here in week 1. We'll get to our picks later in the show and really walking back to week 11 as well. But before we even get into that, guys, I want to talk about a couple of shout outs, favorite segment on the show. And we could talk to a couple of programs like HVA, Sunbright, teams getting some really nice wins this year.
Yeah, and for Hardin Valley, and we had their coach here earlier in the season to talk about the leaps and bounds that program has made. No, they didn't make the playoffs, but they were right there in week 11 for a chance to sneak in there. If Fair get lost, Hardin Valley was very much going to be in the 6A playoffs. And the Hawks went on the road all the way down to Ooltewah and got a win. They finished the season 5-5. That's nice. That's a big deal at Hardin Valley, definitely a big building block. Another team that went 5-5, Seymour. Yeah. We talked about the upset that they would have to pull over Elizabethton late in the season to get into the playoffs. But for Caleb Olive, a guy that has all of his roots as a coach in Middle Tennessee, for you to take up root, move to East Tennessee, and get a community to believe in you, that's really difficult to do. Yeah. And they're 5-5 there in his first year. So I can't wait to see what he continues to build at Seymour. But Sunbright, I love giving Sunbright love on the show because they've been winless so many years. 3-7 this year. Maybe we'll see if it snowballs into more, but I'm happy for those kids that they get to end the season on a winning note.
Yeah, how about Gatlinburg-Pittman?
Gatlinburg-Pittman, first 10-0 season since 2006.
Incredible.
Now, back then, they went 10-0 and then they lost in the first round of the playoffs. We do not want to see that. So the Highlanders, I'm sure the Highlanders are aware. That community is prideful. They remind them of that, I'm sure. And they got a difficult matchup in round 1. We'll get to that in a moment. But another shout out, Lenore City High School. Yes. They got rid of their head coach, Billy Coleman, in week 10. They won in week 11. So talk about feeling good going into the postseason. And then they hire Rusty Bradley this week. Everybody around here knows who Rusty Bradley is. He led CAK to state championships in 2011, 2012, coached there for a few more years, went over to USJ in West Tennessee, and coached, was it Trey Smith, who was offensive lineman at Tennessee and now in the NFL. And then he came back to East Tennessee, coached to Grace, won there. Then he went to Asheville, North Carolina, built a program there, but wanted to get back to East Tennessee. He's been a coordinator and assistant coach over at Catholic, and now going to Lenore City. I think this is like their 5th coach in like the last handful of years. So he needs stability there, and he knows that. He told me as much, and we'll see if he can do it.
Yeah, I think stability is the key note for that program. Sure. The other team that we can turn our attention to is Eagleton. They had a first recently as well.
Yeah, first ever region championship, and they've only been playing football as a TSSAA member for 3 years, I think now. Yeah. So a huge tip of the cap to that program, and yeah, absolutely. And to win like that and get that number 1 seed, again, we talk about building blocks. You take that and then you continue. If you can sustain that kind of success, then people start to notice you. People start to give you honors and awards like Mr. Football, things like that. You start to garner more statewide respect.
Yeah, one program that's been winning quite a lot recently, Bearden Girls Soccer yet again.
Our final shout out goes to the Lady Bulldogs, knocking off their opponent, Houston, that they've seen so many times in the state championship match. In overtime, they win their 4th state title in the last 5 years. Yeah. Huge win for Bearden and the Lady Bulldogs. A lot of people doubted them early in the season. They graduated some big-time talent to Tennessee in the college ranks, but They won when it mattered most, and congratulations to Ryan Radcliffe and the Beard and Lady Bulldogs.
Yeah, it was a very impressive feat that they were able to do there. Let's walk back to week 11. We're going to start with Alcoa and Anderson County before we break it down and I get Jesse Smithy thoughts. We need to go and look at the video. If you're Anderson County fans, you'll certainly enjoy this.
Smart Bank. Play smart, bank smart. Smart Bank. For more information, visit smartbank.com.
3 minutes just really isn't even long enough for how crazy those highlights could be like 6 minutes long.
Yeah, and I think what I'm going to remember most is just the end of the game. Even though Anderson County won, I think Alcoa can look back on the last few minutes of the game and go, we had chances. Even though there was some controversy on the clock at the end of the game and whatnot, they had their chance to put Anderson County away. They're up 3 points. They're inside, the 15, 10-yard line late. A touchdown's going to pretty much clinch it. And they end up kicking a field goal to only go up 6 points. And Anderson County, who had big played them all night, had plenty of time to get back down the field in a hurry and score a touchdown. Still, Thomas Manu almost engineered an opportunity to win that drive. And Kyron Tyson, the kicker, has the leg to make a really long field goal. They just weren't able to kind of get off that final snap and give it a go. I suspect, 4A football is going to be very difficult in the postseason. Very, very difficult. You see if Alcoa wins in round one, they're going to have to go to Upperman, and that's a really good Upperman team with a dynamic quarterback who's about 6'3", 230 pounds, over 1,000 yards passing, over 1,000 yards rushing. They gave Greenville fits during the regular season, and it's a program that's been to the finals before. So it's not going to be an easy game for Alcoa, but there's a lot of people expecting Alcoa to get back to face Anderson County. I think that would be a semifinal showdown, and Anderson County is going to have its hands full along the way too. You talk about Greenville. This is a Greenville team that's very much capable of making it to Chattanooga. So 4A playoffs are going to be fun. An Alcoa-Anderson County rematch would be fun. If it doesn't happen, we have that one to talk about for years. What did you were there. I mean,
So I think what I noticed early in the game is Anderson County was just more physical at the line of scrimmage. In the first drive for Alcoa, it's 3 rushes up the middle for Micah Jones, and he gets stuffed at the goal line to open up the third quarter. Anderson County's physical at the line of scrimmage, back-to-back sacks, and it's 4th and 16. I just don't know if Alcoa had the personnel to be able to overcome what Anderson County brought at the line. And, talking to Brian Nix after the game, a lot of it for him was just he needs to have coached them better. And I think some of that can come down to situational football. A lot of these starters don't play in the second half during the regular season. So getting into that 2-minute drill that they had at the end of the game, that's the first time they've experienced that all season. So maybe some of it's coaching. I think a lot of it comes to lack of experience because they are just so good.
Yeah, I thought Alcoa, you talked about them getting stuffed at the goal line early in that game, and that's when Anderson County 99-yard them for a touchdown and an early lead. I thought Alcoa did respond well. They ended up going up, 21-7 at one point. And then Anderson County, big plays again right before the half. I thought that was critical for John David Gillums, the quarterback for Anderson County. His confidence as a freshman. Remember, he threw an early interception in that game. In the game before against South Doyle, he threw 2 pick sixes. And I remember thinking, man, this could spiral. This could spiral for a guy in a game like this. He's only been back from the injury list for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I thought he responded well.
If they can manufacture that same confidence this postseason, I think they'll be fine. To throw a 99.5-yard touchdown pass deep inside your own end zone, that takes some guts.
Yeah.
Well, let's continue to look at the rest of Week 11 because a lot of that will set up what we see here in the postseason. Let's go to Gibbs and Carter. 31-28 the final in favor of Gibbs. A very back-and-forth game, but honestly, it came down to some really crucial defensive stops.
Absolutely, and Gibbs was able to make those defensive stops and win that football game 31-28. Now, they played on Thursday night, and they did absolutely everything they were supposed to do to get a number 2 seed. They just needed Alcoa to win, and Gibbs would have a home playoff game, and now they're having to go on the road to Elizabethton. So they might have a little extra fuel to their fire because of that. But what an unbelievable season Gibbs has had, 8-2. Again, the win over Anderson County, the way that they closed out the season, those kids and that coaching staff did everything that they were supposed to do to earn a possible home playoff game, but fate decided otherwise. But that was a great football game between them and Carter. I thought Carter did a great job to get back in that game and stay in that game. And now Carter's going to have to go on the road to play a really good Greenville team. But man, just another high-quality win for Gibbs and showing that they know how to win tight football games, meaningful football games.
One thing I don't think we expected out of Week 11 is Maryville to shut out Oak Ridge. Will Jones, the quarterback for Maryville, had a touchdown, 115 yards. I think he was like 13-15 on passing. But Oak Ridge getting shut out, I did not foresee that.
No, and especially, we said this on the show, especially with how they played in Week 10 against Farragut. Now, I know Farragut is not Maryville, but they showed that they could get Malik Howard involved at tight end and him have a big game. They showed that Blaine Stansberry can run the football when the lanes open up. And we just saw none of that. I mean, their offense hardly had any type of offensive production at all. And so their first round matchup against Science Hill is going to go completely different. Science Hill is not nearly on the same page as Maryville. So I think what we saw Oak Ridge do in week 10, they can do against Science Hill. But if they're going to make it a run to the deep stages of the playoffs, they need Will Presley back at wide receiver, and they need DeMillion Porter back at running back. Without those two guys, I don't know how they can compete against your elite programs in 6A.
The other game, a massive rivalry, it was Powell and West, and it gave us a version that we haven't really seen much in series history, and you all had a really nice article on 5starpreps.com. Subscribe if you haven't. But it was Powell who was like very hungry coming into this game, wanting to get back on the winning side, and they did in a 15-3 game.
Yeah, it was just a boxing match, really. Just one of those kind of slugfests. And Powell had to be hungry. I think they wanted to finish off their region undefeated, 7-0. It's a really deep and difficult region. And yeah, they lost to Jefferson County and kind of lost their undefeated season. But again, you just don't want to go into the 5A playoffs on a losing note.
Right.
And so while the West Powell matchup in years past was always for the 1 seed, Powell already had that. But everything that they've been doing right this year, I think they wanted to carry on into the postseason. And DeMarcus Huffines had 3 interceptions on defense for Powell. And so it wasn't your typical Powell offensive outburst. They won it with defense.
Yes, and then how about we go over to Farragut and Cleveland? What do we need to know after that matchup?
Farragut had to win that football game. Remember, if they lost, Hard Valley gets in and Farragut's sitting on the outside. They pulled it off a year ago, kind of rallying from that 0-5 start to make it into the postseason. This year, they take a 3-7 mark into the postseason, but they won the games in region play that they were supposed to have won. We saw in the second half of the season, saw new players emerge at wide receiver, at running back. I have no inkling if they're going to pull off a first-round upset, but they got there. And again, it's all about taking something into the offseason to kind of build on towards next year.
The last game that I want us to look at, it's always a really fun rivalry as well, is Cofield and Oliver Springs. And it was not as close as I maybe thought it was going to be. Was it 48-7?
Yeah, 48-7, and it's kind of a blowout. And this is a matchup that has given us so many classics through the years and games that have come down to the fourth quarter. And Cofield, I think, really flexed its muscle this year against Oliver Springs and let it be known that they are a true 1 seed. They are to be taken seriously, and they are the ones that want to be face-to-face with South Pittsburgh in the state semifinal game. And but we've always gotten Coalfield, Oliver Springs rematches, but with how the brackets are set up now, I don't know if we get that. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see. And coming up, what you guys will see coming up next is everything we need to know about the postseason. We're going to break down the brackets. We're going to get Jesse Smithy's picks. And of course, we're going to be joined by the head coach for the Grace Christian football team and coach
Justin Price. Yeah.
Justin Price. Yes, we'll have that coming back after this.
When you shop at Elliott's, your journey is our purpose.
North Knox Siding and Windows is a complete exterior home improvement company that can help you with all your exterior needs. Visit us today at 5618 North Broadway.
Welcome back into the Walk-Thru Playoff Edition. Paige Dauer, Jesse Smithey. You saw a sneak peek of the playoff brackets, kind of things to look at. What's like the key thing we want to mention from what we just saw?
When the brackets come out, you always look at, who has the best path to the semifinals or state championship, or who are the teams that don't belong here. And the chatter early on social media is 1 in 9, and this happens every year. 1 in 9 teams, 0 in 10 teams don't belong in the playoffs. And so I went through each bracket, every classification, and Paige, in Division I football, classes 1 through 6A, 1/4 of the field has a losing record.
Wow.
1 out of every 4 teams, and it's weird, 8 out of 32 teams in every single classification have losing records. So exactly 1/4,
Yes.
and that's crazy to think about.
Overwhelming
Now,
amount.
keep in mind that some teams are 4 and 5 because they had a game canceled or they weren't able to fill out a 10 game schedule. So there are some teams that are 4 and 5 that I think truly do belong in the playoffs. Okay. But there are some teams like a Red Boiling Springs. They're 0 and 10. They're not good at all, and they're going to have to go play South Pittsburgh. Now, this has nothing to do with the new playoff bracket alignments. This is who they would have had to play under the old system. In fact, they played last year, and you look at for a first round matchup, it's this one. And Red Boiling Springs is 2.5 hours away from South Pittsburgh.
Gosh.
They're 0 and 10. South Pittsburgh beat them in the first round last year, 60-0. And this South Pittsburgh team is way better than last year's South Pittsburgh team. And so you're at this point, we've seen some cancellations early on so far, and you just wonder, like, is it even worth it to load up buses and to go get your brains beat in?
I was going to say that, put your body on the line.
So
truly.
it's just, there are some bad matchups. And again, you talk about all the losing teams in the first round of the playoffs. In Division II, it's not as much. It's more like around 18 to 20% of the teams in Division II.
So slight dip.
And so like in Division II, AAA, everybody makes the playoffs. So you're going to have some bad teams in there. But that was a staggering number to me. That's over 6 classifications, 32 teams make the playoffs in every classification. 8 out of 32 in every single class had losing records. So eventually it all gets weeded out.
Yes.
But again, you're looking for a worse matchup. It's Red Boiling Springs at South Pittsburgh in round 1. I also like to see what defending champions are in the field this year. Mm-hmm. And everybody's in the field this year. Last year, Mace, don't ask me what Mace stands for. It's some Memphis school. I think they won in 1A. They're now in 2A this year. They are a number 1 seed in 2A this year. Marion County won 2A last year. They are a number 1 seed. Let me correct that. Mace is a number 4 seed in 2A. Okay. Marion County is a number 1 seed again in 2A this year. Of course, Alcoa made the jump up to 4A this year. They're a 2 seed in 4A. Macon County won 4A last year. They're 4 seed this year, still in the 4A bracket. Sevier County obviously won 5A last year. They're a 1 seed again. Oakland 10-0 this year. They won it last year in 6A. They're a 1 seed again. Division II Single A, National Christian School with Jared Curtis, the quarterback. We'll talk about him in a minute. They're 10-0. They won it last year. They're a 1 seed. Division II AA, which is where Grace Christian is. We'll have Justin Price on the show here in just a minute. It was won by CPA last year out of Nashville, Christ Presbyterian Academy. They're up in AAA now in Division II. So we're going to have a new state champion in Division II AA. It's Grace. And in Division II AAA, McCallie won it last year. Everybody thinks it's going to be Baylor this year. Yeah. McCallie 8-2 this year, a 3 seed in Division II. So most likely to repeat, I would probably say Nashville Christian. Jared Curtis does not belong in this division.
Okay.
You're talking about Division II Single A, which is low-level private school, Concord Christians, Kings Academy. And then you have a 5-star quarterback who's going to Georgia, who's just like a man amongst boys. I mean,
yes.
I wish he were in a Division II AA or AAA to really see him take on a Baylor or McCallie or who knows, a Grace Christian. But they're going to win again. They're going to beat everybody pretty badly in that. After that, maybe Oakland in 6A. Okay. Oakland's a loaded football team once again. They've handled Maryville in the semifinals the last few years. They do have a young quarterback, so that does open the door a little bit for Maryville if Maryville does get there. But I would say Nashville Christian School is probably the most likely to repeat as state champion. Oakland behind them. First round matchups that we were going to take a look at that I really like in the area. West at Sevier County.
I do really like that, yes.
Remember, that's a state quarterfinal from a year ago that ended in a lot of controversy, and Sevier County went on to win that state championship, and West had won the 2 years before that. So rematch in the first round, that's exciting.
We're talking about that one.
After that, Kingston and Gatlinburg-Pittman. We talked about Gatlinburg-Pittman's undefeated season. Kingston, I think they're better than a 4 seed. They just lost a key game late last week, and some other things happened in that region to kind of drop them to a 4 seed. So this is a dangerous game for Gatlinburg-Pittman. Kingston can control the clock. They have a veteran offensive line. They have 2 really good running backs. So that could be a fun matchup in round 1.
Yeah, it is. Which one are you most looking forward to?
I got to say the West Sevier County game. I mean, again, it's just the brand recognition for each school. And I know West, their record isn't sparkling this year and doesn't look that great. But again, they're playing their best football right now. Even though they lost last week to Powell, they're still playing their best football right now. And Sevier County, this is going to be their first time in a long time trying to repeat as state champions. They've won a state championship before a long time ago. But for this group, they're going to really learn like what it feels like to go into the postseason as the most hunted team in 5A.
And before we get to the interview with Grace Christian's head coach and Justin Price, you had a great conversation, I assume, coming up with him. You mentioned earlier in the season you kind of didn't have a ton of faith in them. Now in the postseason, where do you think they go?
No, I mean, I think they have a really good chance to last for a really long time, maybe get to this. I can't remember exactly how their division bracket's set up, where they are in relation to the Boyd Buchanans of the world.
Sure.
And Boyd Buchanan is a team coached by Gary Rankin, formerly at Alcoa, Hall of Famer, over 500 wins. So, and I think Boyd Buchanan beat Grace earlier in the season in a region game. But yeah, I mean, when you lose your starting quarterback and you lose a running back who's being recruited by Indiana, one of the top teams in the country, and who ran for over 1,000 yards last year and had 1,000 yards receiving, I doubted Grace Christian early just because those are huge losses.
Yeah.
But the way that they've been able to scheme teams up and get J.V. Stinson running the football and Jace Ballard get the ball in his hands in a myriad of ways has been phenomenal and fun to watch. And we'll talk about that with Justin coming up later in the show.
Yep. Actually, it's coming up right after this. Stay tuned.
When you shop at Elliott's, your journey is our purpose.
North Knox Siding and Windows is a complete exterior home improvement company that can help you with all your exterior needs. Visit us today at 5618 North Broadway.
Welcome back into the Walk-Thru presented by Triple F. Now our coach interview segment of the show, and joined by Justin Price, head football coach at Grace Christian. And Justin, you've been on the show before. Glad to have you back. Last week, though, you didn't have to coach on Friday night. It was Halloween. How was that with the kids? And did you dress up at all?
Yeah, I didn't. I got out of dressing up, but it's a good time. You know, you get young kids and watching them dress up, and you know they turn into Spider-Man, and that's just who they are for that night.
Yeah. A rare Friday night off. I know that had to be good, but did you still kind of find yourself mentally kind of locked into the season and maybe kind of scoping out what's going on out there?
Yeah, you know how it is. This late in the year, there's just so many big games and what's at stake, you know, with playoffs and stuff. So it was nice. You know, our bye was week 1, so we'd played 10 straight. So to play on that Thursday, it almost gave us a little bit of a longer weekend that we hadn't had in a while.
How did you kind of keep guys fresh throughout the season, given that you did have kind of an oddly placed bye week?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, we had a tough schedule. That run we were on there, I mean, it was every week. We're playing either rival games or really talented teams, and you know, our coaching staff and our guys just did a really good job, I felt like, at practice to make sure that we stay as fresh as least you possibly can.
We have seen Grace Christian now kind of solidify that number 2 seed there in the playoff brackets in Division II AA. Tell us about your opponent this Friday night and kind of what challenges they may present.
Well, it's St. George's out of the Memphis area. Obviously, I didn't know much about them, but when you kind of watch their film, and they're not a very big team. They don't have as many players, but they do have a new coach. I think his dad was a coach out in West Tennessee for a while, and so obviously comes from a football family, and I think there's a lot of energy in that. And I think when you have a new coach with a team that's in the playoffs for the first time maybe in a few years, you just don't know what you're going to get. A lot of confidence riding into it, maybe trying different things to try to pull off this win.
The fact that you were able to get a home game and not have to travel over to the West Tennessee area, how huge is that?
It's huge. And, when you start looking at the playoff brackets in private school, I mean, it is traveling to Memphis, traveling to Nashville. And I think that is where home field advantage truly matters. And so it was, when we got last year we were the 3 seed and got to host one round. This year being our 2 seed, the way it works out, we would host the first 2. Obviously we got to take care of this one first. But I think when you get in the playoffs, be able to host and be at home and not have to travel like that is a huge advantage.
One of the narratives around your football team early on was the loss of Terrion Thomas and then the loss of Trayson Derry at quarterback. When did you feel like your team and your locker room not only moved beyond that, but truly formed that new identity and ran with it?
I think Trayson got hurt the second game, and Cooper Brayman came in and we finished that off against Chat Christian. And then the next week we had Silverdale at home, and Silverdale had beaten us last year, and they have a really well-coached, great program, and it was a huge game. We knew, as the season went on, you could go back to that one to see where you are as far as playoff seedings. And, I think it's a tight game in the fourth quarter. And in that fourth quarter, I think we had 4 turnovers on defense, and I think Jace Ballard, we were playing him at Wildcat, and he ran a couple touchdowns in, and I think that night really shifted us to who we were going to become. And, it's more the identity of us on offense moving forward from that point, and then just the way our defenses continue to play and taking advantage of opportunities that they got. So I think that fourth quarter in the Silverdale game, really, it was an electric night at Grace anyway that night, and just the way we won that game, ended up winning by 21 points. I think that was that game was huge for us.
The Webb game was the game that was on TV, and I thought really allowed the area on the whole to kind of really see what Jace Ballard was like, what J.V. Stinson was like. Those 2 guys, y'all been able to use, especially Jace, in a variety of ways. Just tell me about how you've used them in different facets.
Well, I think what we try to look at is how can we get those 2 guys the ball in different ways. And, I guess that's smart coaching. But, I think it's when you're throwing games not, priority like it typically is with us. We've put Jace at quarterback, and, we'll split him at receiver. And so we're just finding different ways to get them the ball. But they're 2 of the most electric players that I've been around and even seen. I mean, both of them, anytime they touch the ball, they literally can go score. And it's not just their top-end speed and their quickness. It's their power and their toughness. It's, and they're great teammates. And I told JV today, it's the way he practices every day. It's fun to watch and be around. I mean, everybody see what he did against Webb, and Jace is the same way. But if you come and watch them practice, you would think it's 4th and 1 against Webb. The way they attack every rep that they get. One
of the fun things I love about watching JV play is his glasses. You'll see him pop out of his face mask, and he's just fumbling around to pick them up. I guess sports goggles don't work for him. He doesn't like them. He's tried them and he don't like them, and so he's it's just, I think it's just part of who he is. I feel like everybody, sometimes as you become a good player and you got your thing, whatever it's a nickname or whatever it is that you have, and I think that's just what JV has, and he's we've had a lot of people say, does he need the goggles or contacts or whatever? But he just puts them on and he just goes to work. Have they ever broken during the game?
Yeah, we had one game where they broke, so he had to finish without them, and we got them fixed. And I think one game they fell out, and I don't know if somebody stepped on them, but it ended up being okay.
Yeah, so I remember seeing them pop out against Sevier County on the ground. I was like, nobody step on him. He kind of needs those. But you've talked numerous times in post-game interviews about the offensive line and how special they are. Kind of let everybody who's watching tonight know about your offensive line.
Yeah, we knew coming into the season that they could be a special group. They all 5 started last year, and the way that they have gelled together is impressive. But it was the off season. They got bigger, they got stronger, and they got Coach Josh Kerr does a good job with them up there, and they just play the game up front the way most linemen we feel like need to play. And those guys we've just leaned on them so much, and obviously they don't get the credit that you get as a skill guy. But as good as JV and Jace are with the football, a lot of that is the way that our line has controlled that week in and week out. And I think the first time I really realized, we knew they were good, but when you go against a team like Sevier County, who's a big 5A program that's got the depth, that they're big up front, and just the way that our kids were able to manage and control that game up front was impressive.
Cooper Brayman at quarterback, nobody really gives him a lot of recognition, but to be thrust into that role, you're a guy that's groomed many quarterbacks through the years. How have you gone about getting him ready and making sure he's ready each and every week? Yeah, Cooper's exceeded all of our expectations. When he had to be thrown in there, just the way that he has handled the situation. Really, he's got some moxie. He's a confident kid. So we didn't
he thought at least going into it he could do it. I remember him telling us, he believes in himself, which I think you got to have at quarterback. But I think at the beginning of the year he was playing JV in a JV game with us against Gibbs over there on a Monday night. The next thing you know, he's out there beating Sevier County. So he's it's been a ride for him, and he's still a little limited being a sophomore, being young. I think that his the ceiling's so high for him, but he's we've protected him, but whatever we've asked him to do, he's done it at a high level.
Last thing with you, and I just want to get your thoughts on what it was like transitioning from coaching in public school football to now Division II, kind of what challenges that presents for you guys each and every week, and how you guys have kind of lifted your coaching game, so to speak.
Yeah, I think when it comes to football, the game of football, it's the same. If you were with us, watched us practice at Campbell County and you watch us practice at Grace, you're going to see some similarities in the way that you coach. Same thing with Coach Craney coming over from Central. Like there's just football is, there's so many players, there's only so many things that you want to try to get accomplished. And so the football side is one thing. Then you got, just the managing of, there are different, aspects of being at a private school and a public school that you got to manage. But overall, I feel like running a football program is very similar. I think there's a little different teams, different coaches. There's obviously some very talented players in the private school divisions that are playing, at the highest level. And so it's been fun. I think getting to play new teams and, getting, different challenges that different coaches present to us, and so it's been a smooth transition, no doubt.
Justin, I appreciate you coming down here. I know I doubted y'all early in the season in a couple games. I'm a believer now. We're going to see what the Rams can do in the playoffs, and wish you guys the best of luck.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we've got a lot of predictions to do right here on the Walk-Thru, presented by Triple F.
When you shop at Elliott's, your journey is our purpose.
North Knox Siding and Windows is a complete exterior home improvement company that can help you with all your exterior needs. Visit us today at 5618 North Broadway.
Welcome back into the Walk-Thru. Paige Dauer, Jesse Smithey. Before we get to our picks for round one, a very fun programming note: the 2025 Hammers Hardwood Classic about to get underway. Practicing just starting.
High school basketball just started, so we got the overlap going with the high school football playoffs, and so right now we're getting all the preview information out for football, for basketball. But we've also released the Hammers Classic brackets, and you can find that on all of our social media. 48 teams, 6 brackets, all satellite locations around the greater Knoxville area. And I think the bracket that I'm most excited about is going to be the Grace Christian boys bracket. You're talking about Fulton High School boys basketball, Oak Ridge, Sevier County, Maryville, Catholic, Alcoa. You're talking about some of the teams that have been right there at the state championship, either state championship game, winning a state championship, or at least getting to the state tournament. So those are some of your premier boys teams. And girls, Webb will be there, TKA will be there, Grace Christian will be there. All these programs are going to be around into March. We're going to get an early season look at, and that's going to be December 19th, the 20th, and the 22nd. So we got to skip the 21st for calendar reasons, but we'll finish up on the 22nd championship games. And it's so much fun. I invite everybody to come out. You want to see some high-level basketball. We got a lot of big-time players in the area. We got a kid from Catholic going to Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Webb's players are signing Division I basketball scholarships here in a couple of weeks. So loaded area of basketball talent this year.
Yeah, I try to get to one every year, and it's always such a fantastic time. When we turn our attention to round one, the high school football playoffs, I'm so excited to start talking about. We can start with Cosby and Midway. So back-to-back seasons since 05-06 that Cosby is in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Do they get past the first round?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And I hate that, because Cosby was a 1 seed last year and they got upset in the first round, I think, against Rockwood. And now they're having to go on the road and to try to knock off a 2 seed in Midway. I watched Midway play against Oliver Springs this year. They are dangerous. And this Tate Mason kid at running back may or may not get in the discussion for Mr. Football. I think he'll be in the mix for All-State if not. But he is dynamic with the football in his hands. They have a number of other backs who can really make big plays happen. I think this is just a bad matchup for Cosby. I like Midway to win this football game.
Yeah, well, Midway's won all 6 in series history, so that might just be 7-0. Kingston at Gatlinburg-Pittman. GP is 7-2 in series history. Good enough in the postseason. They've won 4 of the last 5.
Yeah, I don't think this Gatlinburg-Pittman team is going to suffer the same fate as their 10-0 brethren from 2006.
Okay, I thought you were going to jinx them earlier.
I think they're going to win this football game against Kingston. Again, it's going to be difficult. The Yellow Jackets are deep and big out on the offensive line. Tayshawn Hamilton at running back, he's a 1,000-yard rusher, and their quarterback can really get out and make things happen in the run game as well. They're not going to throw the ball a lot, so a lot of those key members of the Gatlinburg-Pittman secondary are going to have to read their keys, make sure they're coming up, helping with run support. I think they do that. And then the star players for Gatlinburg-Pittman, your Braden Maples of the world, they're going to come up and make big plays. I expect GP to win this football game.
Okay, turn our attention to Gibbs at Elizabethton. You mentioned it earlier. Gibbs almost controlling their own destiny, but not quite. Alcoa not winning, so Gibbs is on the road, and it's a tough way to start.
Tough way to start. In years past, I would have no-brain picked Elizabethton. This time, it's this Gibbs football game to win. We've talked about their ascension as a program, and again, I think they go into the postseason a little mad, a little steamed, because they did everything they were supposed to and still didn't get the 2 seed. But it's a program that's always gone out and earned it, and I think they go up to Elizabethton and earn that first-round win.
Wow, okay, hot take. Bookmark it here tonight. Bradley Central at Jefferson County. Jefferson County, they're 8-2 on the year. They've had a really solid season, and then this is their first meeting since 2021, though. So how different do we think this meeting might go?
So Bradley Central's good, but they're not the Boo Carter team from last year, right? I mean, they don't have the elite talent that they had at the quarterback position and just athlete position with Boo Carter. Jefferson County having this home game, I think, matters.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lean towards the Patriots in this one. They've really developed a nice pass game with Mason Henderson at quarterback and Sean Jackson at wide receiver. He's got over 800 yards receiving this year, but also can help in the run game where he's got 400 or 500 more yards. So I think his presence on offense makes the difference for Jefferson County. The Patriots get the win.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. The game that you're most looking forward to here in the first round is West at Sevier County. They met a season ago in the quarterfinals. Sevier County, of course, winning 24-17 to get their first state title. What are we expecting out of this matchup, Jesse?
I think you see a highly motivated Sevier County team. They had a really big win over Huntington, West Virginia, a team that's loaded with Division I prospects that probably didn't get enough attention here because nobody knew anything about this team that they're playing from West Virginia. But when you really take a closer look at that roster that Huntington had, that win was really impressive late in the season by Sevier County. So that lets me know they're exactly where they need to be at this time of the year to possibly repeat as 5A state champions. It's not going to be easy. West gets after it defensively, but I think the familiarity of what West does defensively and knowing what kind of football game that's going to be helps Sevier County this time around. I think they get the win, or it helps, Sevier County.
Okay, and as we turn our attention to the playoffs getting done with the regular season, that becomes a perfect time for you to take a nice trip to Nashville for a couple important votes.
Yeah, Mr. Football is coming up right around the corner, and the semifinalists, which will be the 5 guys in each classification, that will be announced tomorrow on Thursday by the TSSAA. I don't know who made it. It's a blind vote. So don't text me and ask me ahead of time, did my guy make it? Because I really do not know. I went down there earlier this week as part of the committee and cast a vote, and they don't tell us. So we learn it when everybody else learns it, but that should be somewhere around 11 to 12, kind of around lunchtime on Thursday, that we'll learn the semifinalists. And I cannot stress this enough. I said it on the War Room show. This is regular season only.
Yes.
The final voting is cast after the regular season. So no matter what player so-and-so does against such and such team, it doesn't matter.
In the playoffs,
so remember that. So when you get into a big 3rd or 4th round game and your guy beats the other Mr. Football candidate and the other Mr. Football candidate ends up winning, don't tell me, well, we beat them in the semi. It does not matter. So regular season only award. But what confuses people is that they put this out as semifinalists, and then in a couple of weeks they'll say, here's our finalists. So it makes it seem like another round of votes has been cast, but it hasn't. So it's just a little bit of a tease to put out the semifinalists, acknowledge some more kids. They trim it down to 3 for the finalists, which will come around semifinal week, maybe the week before in quarterfinals. And then the week after the state championship games are played, that's when we'll learn who the winners are. That's at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, and that's an awesome ceremony.
Yeah, how many guys do you think from this East Tennessee area might see their names.
I could probably guess somewhere around 3. I think we might get 2 to 3. And the last few years, last year was a gut punch. I went down there, drove down there. I thought we had a legit chance to at least get 2, and we got 0. And the Eli Graff was the biggest gut punch I can experience as a voter. The quarterback from Alcoa last year, I thought he was a surefire winner and didn't win it. So, but I got a feeling we're going to have a couple this year, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Stay tuned for Thursday for more from 5-star preps and everything coming up in the first round of the high school football playoffs. We'll talk to you guys later this week.
This is the Walk-Thru, powered by Triple F Elite Sports Training. Train like a pro. Your all-access pass to the biggest games, hottest stories, and everything high school football in East Tennessee. From the Friday night lights to the chase for championships, we bring you the stars, the headlines, and every heart-pounding moment. So strap on that chin strap and get ready. Jesse, Paige, and the 5-Star Preps team are here with the most complete high school football coverage in the state. This is the Walk-Thru.
When you shop at Elliott's, your journey is our purpose.
North Knox Siding and Windows is a complete exterior home improvement company that can help you with all your exterior needs. Visit us today at 5618 North Broadway.